Okay, good evening everyone and welcome to our event. We're going to get started now. My name is Jo Fletcher-Cross. I'm an Associate Editor at National Geographic Traveller and I am going to be taking you through our event tonight, the National Geographic Traveller Travel Geeks Valencia Culture and Cuisine. I'm really glad you've all made it here. Thank you for joining me in my office, which we've done up especially. We've spared no expense, so we're ready to go. First of all, I want to introduce you to our incredible panel tonight. We've got a really lovely panel and I can't wait to speak to them all about Valencia, about food, about paella especially. So let me tell you who we have with us this evening. We have Marcos Fernandez, I'm sorry, Marcos, who started in the music business, but then launched Spanish restaurant Iberica in 2008. Iberica's flourished, as I'm sure all of you know, and is now one of the leading high-end Spanish food businesses in the UK. He's the managing director of Iberica and Arroz QD, so really celebrates the diversity of Spanish cuisine, particularly here in the UK. We also have Sarah Gordon with us. Sarah is the former travel editor of Mail Online and commercial travel editor of The Telegraph. She roamed the globe for years for work, but now she's settled in Spain, specifically Valencia, lucky thing, and writes travel articles on Spain for the likes of The Times, The Daily Mail and The Telegraph, as well as running a content agency. So we're looking forward to hearing her inside tips on living in Valencia. We also have Richard de la Cruz with us this evening. He is group head chef at Arroz QD, which is the first restaurant outside Spain from celebrated Valencian chef Quique da Costa. Richard has worked at some of Spain's best known Michelin-starred restaurants, including Quique da Costa in Denia when it gained its third Michelin star. So we're delighted to have him with us this evening. He's a true paella expert, so we're going to pick his brains. And finally, we have Eva Fernandez. Eva is a true Valencia expert, and her work for Visit Valencia, she promotes the city and the region. In her role as director of the tourist gastronomic program for Visit Valencia, she helped visitors explore Valencia's culinary riches, and she was also responsible for creating World Paella Day, which is coming up again on the 20th of September, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. Let me just tell you how the event's going to run tonight if you haven't joined us before for a Travel Geeks event online. In a minute I'll be talking through lots and lots of questions with our panel. We'll have about 40 minutes of questions. Then I'll be taking questions from you. So all through the evening, please feel free to put your questions in the chat function. You can put your questions there and I will ask as many as we can at the end. So we'll have a Q&A at the end. I expect there'll be lots of talk about paella, lots of controversial opinions, I'm hoping. So I'll be asking you questions, but feel free to jump in there and we'll gather them all up. Before that, we really want to share with you a very short film about the region for you to enjoy. Any moment now.
On 20th September is your turn to cook, with some ingredients that give you the landscape, the orchard, the Mediterranean, the mountain. You have to master the fire. You will drink from the identity of a unique territory. You will enjoy the value of company and good food in a safe environment. September the 20th is the World Paella Day. The day to celebrate much more than a recipe, and whose best tribute is to cook it. Do you participate?
Thank you so much. So I'm going to open it up. I must say, I'm sorry, don't put your questions in the chat. I mean, you can, but better to put them in the Q&A function. So there's a Q&A button just on there. If you click on there and put your questions in there, we'll pick them up. Also, you can tweet through the night as well. We're on Twitter. We've got two hashtags. We've got our National Geographic Traveller one, which is hashtag NGT Travel Geeks. Feel free to join in the conversation there. And also hashtag World Paella Day 2020. Now that's an important one and I'll tell you why later. Okay, so let's open it up to the panel. We've got lots of questions to get through. The first one I'm going to ask is, we've talked a lot about paella. I've been looking at paella a lot this week while we're thinking about this. Why is paella so associated with Valencia? I'm happy for anyone to answer that. Who's got the answer? Is there a definitive answer? Marcos, perhaps you could lead us off on that. Do you have any ideas there?
Yeah, I mean, rice was introduced by the Arabs in Spain into the Valencia region to start with. So actually, it's not just paella; it's a lot of rice dishes. So you'll have wet dishes, which we call melosos. You've got dishes which are similar to risotto, which we call melosos. The other ones we called caldosos. And then finally, you've got the dry rices that happen in Valencia, and it's really because it's the main region for the production of rice. After that, it extended to Barcelona and the river Guadalquivir in Andalusia, but it's because it's the main rice producing region in Spain.
Okay, lovely, thank you. So, I mean, it's got a long history, doesn't it? People have been making paella in Valencia for what, hundreds of years? Would that be right to say that? Richard,
just over 100 years, I think.
Yeah, okay, fabulous. What makes a true Valencian paella? There seems to be a lot of debate. I've discovered, stumbled into some, apparently peppers are non-Valencian. I've been told off this week for having a picture of peppers, but I think, I don't want to be too controversial. Richard, can you tell us what makes a true Valencian paella?
Well, it's quite a difficult question, to be honest, because even though there is certain recipes and ingredients put together saying like just following but these recipes is a true Valencian paella, but the thing is there is hundred like true paella recipes, because in every small village, in every small town of Valencia, they used to have some particular ingredients they were using, and they also call that paella. But normally what we call paella valenciana is a paella made of with ingredients like chicken, rabbit, snails, for instance, artichokes, garrofó, bayoqueta, which is a runner bean, as we know. I will say that this recipe that I just say now is the most well known as a Valenciana, but as I said before, back in Cullera, for example, they have another kind of beans that they also put in the paella valenciana that they call, and they are allowed to say that this is also a Valenciana recipe.
Who decides? Who's in charge of deciding what's a Valencian paella? What a great job. Marcos, I believe the stock is very important. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that the one characteristic of the rice is not just in Spain, but in Southern Europe, it's a rice that has very little flavor by itself. It's a rice that takes a lot of liquid. Therefore, traditionally, you would make stock in the paella pan, and that's why when you ask what is paella, I can tell you what paella isn't. It isn't voluminous. It isn't fluffy. It isn't saffron colored, and it isn't brimming generously with seafood. Yes, the dry rices need the space for the stock to be able to evaporate and assimilate, and they need to dry out. And if not, it's not a paella. And one of the problems of how people see paella is that really in Spain, to eat a proper paella, you need to go to the Comunidad Valenciana. Madrid probably has 4 good restaurants of paella and is the 3rd largest city in Europe. I think that in Spain, we've been serving thickened meloso rices in paella pans for too long to the tourists that come to Spain. Therefore, there's a massive misconception of what paella is. And definitely, it's not what we're serving in a lot of our costas, which is those thick rices. And the key of the stock, when you look at the ingredients that say paella has, and you split them, if you put them in one paella pan and you put the rice in the middle, the rice wouldn't be in the middle, because probably of what you see on the paella is about 1/3 of the ingredients. What you don't see is what you've used to make the stock. And a lot of people that do paella cutting corners will use oxo cubes or things like this. That's the best recipe for not having a paella, for having a very bad experience.
Okay, this is good. Okay, so for those of you who are now worried about making paella, it's going to be fine. Rich has done an incredible demonstration for us, which you're going to get, so you are going to be perfect. I've never made paella before. I'm making it tomorrow. So, in fact, this is a good time to mention that there's a competition launched by the Spanish Tourist Office tomorrow, which will be on their UK social channel. So if you go on to, I think it's @Spain_in UK, and on their Facebook page, you can upload pictures of paella that you've made, and you could win a paella making kit. So that's at #World Paella Day 2020. So, you know, get making the paella, upload your pictures of paella. Maybe send me some paella. I'm up for it. So that would be great. Now, I don't want to get too controversial too early, but what about regional variations? You know, paella, I know you said that obviously there are things being served to tourists which are not specifically paella, it's a kind of an ersatz version, but presumably there are regional variations that are both delicious and not ersatz. You know, what's out there that's really good that isn't traditional Valencian paella?
I mean, it's what Richard was saying. A paella is really the pan. It's not the dish. It's the pan that you cook the dish in. The dish is called Paella Valenciana, which is when it's a specific recipe, which is, I am sure Eva can tell us exactly what that recipe is. However, then in each area they do other type of paella. So the seafood paella was then created. The purists of paella would say that's not paella. Okay, so normally they're not called paella; they're called rice something, rice abanda, or something like that. And then there's also the rices from Alicante, which normally are slightly thinner. So, for example, one of my favorites paellas is rabbits and caracoles. How do you say caracoles in English?
Snails.
Rabbits and snails from Casa Elias in Alicante, in the middle of the mountain, and they do it with fire. They do it with sarmiento. Also, the use of fire is very important, and it's the fire which wood was available there, because let's think that a paella originally was peasants that would take it on the back and they just cook it in the middle of the field. So it's what's available in the area, and Spain is such a versatile country with such accidental geography that when you move only 50 kilometers, you're in a totally different place, and the agriculture and everything around you is completely different. So that's how the paellas and the different types of paellas take form.
That's really interesting. Richard, can I ask you a bit about the fire as well? I believe at Arroz QD, do you cook over an open fire? Is that right?
Yeah, I think we have the luck to cook in one of the biggest, if it's not the big, open fire in London. The whole operation of Arroz QD, starting from the wood itself, is massive. The fire for us, the wood for us, is an extra ingredient. For example, for instance, as Marcus was saying, the tradition used to put the connection between the Valenciana and the orange wood. In the restaurant, we have 4 different kind of wood. We use orange wood, we use pine, we use olive, and we use vines also. Every different wood is cooked to a different paella, to a different rice, and even in a different moment, a wood is not just a thing that helps us to do combustion. It's an extra ingredient for us. All the aroma, all the extra notes that give us to the paella is super important for us. So definitely we treat that wood, we treat the orange wood, we treat the vines as an extra ingredient, because it actually changes a lot.
So it changes. So it's not just about the temperature it burns at, but it also
definitely no. It has an important role on our paellas. It has a massive role.
Amazing. I'm not sure my gas burner is going to do the job here, but
maybe you can try the barbecue.
I might do that. I will. I'll chop a tree down and I'll get going. I don't know what I've got in the background. I don't think I've got any orange trees, unfortunately. We've talked a lot about the technicalities of paella, but I think my impression of paella is that it's a social dish that you would come together to enjoy. Would you say that's correct? And I'd love to know about what makes paella special to you, not just about how you make it and there it is. Have you got any special memories of paella? Eva, I'd love to ask you this. You know, what's so special about paella for you?
Well, not only for me, but the whole people in Valencia, the paella is a familiar thing. Whenever we want to, we need to celebrate anything, we always cook the paella. And we usually share it with friends or with family. And even the cooking process is part of this celebration. So no matter what you want to celebrate, even if it's a private celebration or a public one, whenever you have festivities in the villages or anything, there's always a day when everybody cooks paella on the street. So it's a part, that's part of the ceremony of the paella, cooking the paella and sharing it with the rest of the people.
Oh, that sounds lovely. Sarah, what's your opinion of that? Coming to it as someone who's not from Valencia, you know, do you experience that living there?
Absolutely, yes. Obviously, I am not lucky enough to have a parent who's here who wants to make it for me every Sunday. But if you go out with your Valencian friends on the weekend, it's a given. If you're meeting on a Sunday for lunch, you're going to have rice. And it's a big sharing plate, and it's all about, I mean, really, you normally order it for a minimum of 2 people. But if you're on a table of 4 or 6 people, often, especially when you go to these traditional places where they are cooking it over a fire, they sort of want the whole table to join in, and you'd look a bit strange if you didn't want to have it. So you get it sort of brought up in this huge paella dish, as Marcos and Richard were saying. The actual dish is called a paella, and it's sort of presented to you, and then from there you all eat from it, and it's this huge shared experience, and it really is lovely. And everyone does talk about, you know, it's not the same as my grandma's, it's not the same as my dad's, and you know, everyone talks about the pueblo, the village that they go back to, and of course, you know, it's not the same, but you know, I still have to have it, so I don't mind going to a restaurant for it. And it's the same thing is when you see it cooked on the streets. You'll have Las Fallas Festival, which is sort of one of the biggest festivals in Spain, which takes place in Valencia in March. And it's sort of neighborhood groups. They do these crazy works of art, and then at the end of the holiday sort of period of this, they burn them all to the ground, actually. But as part of this, all these neighborhood groups, they will make their paellas, and you'll just see it sort of bubbling away in pans as you go down the streets and things. And as the guys were saying as well, you know, in the different villages, they have the same thing, and it's really heartwarming to see. It's a really lovely part of the culture.
That's so lovely. Eva, yeah.
I just wanted to add something that, in fact, in Valencia we have a word for that act of sharing the paella with your friends and everything. We call it the convoy.
Le convoy.
The convoy, which is the act to meet all your friends or family to cook a paella, which is part of the paella experience.
That's fabulous. Richard, are you Valencian? Are you from Valencia, Richard?
No, I'm South America. I'm from Ecuador.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should have asked that before.
Funny enough, we're talking about rice, and rice could be the most popular ingredient in the world. You know, the rice is super important in my culture. You know, then I grew up in Mallorca. I was raised in Mallorca, where paella is also, well, we call paella, but it's actually, as Marco says, it's rice with something. You know, it's super important. And we have our own traditions in Mallorca. For instance, in Mallorca, every time you have your rice with something, you eat it with fried peppers and lemons. You know, and every time I say that to someone, it's like, they look at me like, that's weird. But it's you know, it's our tradition. And as Eva was saying, the pan itself is round, you know, and it's a social event. I have a great memories every time I used to hang out with friends, like on a weekend, what we're gonna do, it was obvious we're gonna do a paella. We're gonna go to a friend's house, we're gonna cut some trees, we're gonna do in the garden, you know, everyone around the round pan and socializing. And I think and I think that's the greatest things of the paella itself. You know, it's a community come together, the friends come together, family. Many times you are with people that you don't know that person, and just by the fact to be sharing the same pan, to put the spoon together on the same pan, you create that connection, and I think that's what we love from paellas.
I think we're all longing for a bit of connection right now, aren't we? So this is really please. Marcos, what about you? What are your special memories of paella? What does it mean to you?
Well, actually, I'm from Galicia, so I don't have special memories of paella. So, as I was saying, it's very wrong to say that paella is a Spanish dish. Paella is a dish from Valencia. That's one of the biggest confusions. So my memories of paella are the whole process that I did with Quique da Costa, properly understanding paella. Have I been eating paella all my life? But have I truly understood paella actually more recently? And I would say, you know, I, for example, have arguments still now with my mother of what is paella. So let's say that the confusion about what is paella is not only something in the UK, it's actually something that happens within Spain.
Okay, that's interesting. What does your mother think paella is?
It's that fluffy, saffron-coloured, brimming generously with seafood. That's I wouldn't put a gun to my head.
Oh, okay. Well, we won't get into any arguments with your mother.
Me and my mum get big arguments.
I mean, it's not just paella, is it? I mean, it would be ridiculous to say that Valencia is just paella, but what else, if you were going to Valencia, what should you look out for to eat? Eva, perhaps you could give us some tips to start with. What would you head for to eat in Valencia?
To eat in Valencia?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we've got a wide variety of recipes in Valencia, but I can recommend some similar, or in a way very peculiar, which is the fideuà, which is very similar to a fish paella, but cooked with noodles. Okay,
yeah.
And then we also have the allipebre, which is a very famous fish. It's a very famous fish too, made with eel. The eels are in the Albufera Nature Park in the lake. It's got a big lake in the middle, and those eels live there. So this is a very traditional stew that is served in that nature park, or also the esgarraé, which is a very peculiar salad that we had, especially in the Cabanyal district. Those are my favorites, right?
Okay.
We've got many.
Sarah, what do you go for if you're going out to eat? What would you apart from paella?
Apart from paella, there is amazing seafood here, so you really can't go wrong ordering lovely seafood. I think for me, it's not necessarily about the dishes so much. There are lots of traditional dishes that, like Eva was talking about, but I think in Valencia, what is so lovely is that it has coast. It's on the coast, so you've got all of this amazing seafood that comes in. It's also surrounded by market gardens, so it's a really green area surrounding the whole city, and that's where you get your oranges, your tomatoes, your artichokes, everything from there. And then of course you've got the rice fields, which is, as Eva was saying, you've got Albufera, which is a huge lake that's actually really right next to the coast. It's sort of separated by some from the sea by sand dunes, really. And all around it are rice fields, which is where you get your Valencian rice for the paella from. So for me, it's about these amazing ingredients. So really, you've got all these traditional foods, but you can go to any restaurant here and they'll be using these beautiful local ingredients. You'll have tomatoes sort of this size, and it's really, really fresh and lovely. That's what I really like about eating out in Valencia.
Thank you, Sarah. Actually, that's really interesting and brings me to something that I wanted to speak to Richard about, and I think Marcos, about bringing Valencian cooking to the UK. How are you bringing ingredients over from Valencia? Or can you source that kind of produce in the United Kingdom?
I let Richard talk because he's the one buying it.
Yeah. To be honest with you, arroz cudi, even though the clear core is Valencian thing, we try to source our restaurant with British products. Of course, there's a certain ingredients that we respect a lot, and we have to bring it as a garrafó, and the rice itself. The rice itself and the garrafó is something that we import because we don't play around, we don't mess around with these things. But out of that, we source our restaurant with British chickens, with British rabbits. All the meat we use for our stocks is coming from here, from the UK. All the vegetables, UK has an amazing producers. A lot of really good vegetables are coming from here, from UK. So I don't think there's the necessity here to import all of them. As I said, we mainly import garrafó and the rice, but we outsource our restaurant from the British produce, basically.
Oh, that's really good to know. It's good to know that you can get ingredients here. Are there any special ingredients that are particularly Valencian that you can't get here and you miss, you wish you could?
Well, as I said, the garrafó bean, which is a bean similar to the butter bean.
Yeah.
We import that because we just want to get it here.
Yep.
And the rice in Valencia has a denomination of origin as well. So it is, it is certified special rice.
Okay. So that's what I was going to ask. I wanted to ask if it was possible to get arroz bomba or senia in the UK. Is that possible?
Yes,
Okay.
completely. I mean, there's many people that bring it. The thing is that in our case, our rice, we selected personally because one of the key things when you're cooking a paella is that your rice doesn't break. Because if it breaks, it will lose starch and then it will thicken your stock and therefore the rice will stop sucking the stock in. So it's very important that your rice is whole and we make sure that happens with our rices. So
another very important question that I have is what to drink with your paella. And there's some great Spanish wines out there. Marcos, what would you serve? No, not Spanish wine.
Gin tonic.
Gin and tonic, brilliant. I like that a lot.
If you can't have gin tonic, I would go for sparkling wines.
Okay, with Spanish sparkling wines.
Yeah, well, or champagne, but I mean, yes, I mean, I will always try and get you to drink cava because I think cava has an extremely good value for money, and it's a very badly recognized wine because it's gone too low sometimes. But I would say sparkling because a paella, if it's well done, it doesn't have to have a high dense of fat because again, it's how you do your stock and you take some of the fat out or grease out or not. But it is oily. And a nice sparkling wine will help you clean palate whilst you're eating the paella.
I mean, it sounds like a fabulous excuse for a sparkling wine, doesn't it?
I would suggest to try the Valencian cava. Okay, it comes from Utiel Requena, and it's they are not very well known maybe in the UK, but they are excellent. So that way you can get a very true experience with paella and the Valencian cava. Very Valencian experience.
Are there any other Valencian wines that anyone would recommend that aren't sparkling wines?
The same area, the Requena area, which is just outside of Valencia city, a little bit inland, also is very famous for the Bobal Grape, which really is only from Valencia. Often you get it, you might have tried it in wines, but normally mixed. It's normally blended with other grapes, but you can get a sort of 100% Bobal wines in Valencia now, which are becoming much more fashionable and sort of being explored a lot more and better quality as well. Whereas before they were considered, it's just when you blend with other things. And now there are winemakers who are really celebrating this grape, which is really exciting. They're great value as well.
Can we get Valencian wines easily in the UK? I'm not sure whether we have the answer to that. Marcos, are you able to?
Yes, I mean, in Iberica, where we have a dedicated Spanish wine list, we do have quite a few good Valencian wines, and there's more and more very good wines coming out from that region.
Lovely. Well, we'll look out for them. I was also very interested to read about Agua De Valencia. Is this something that only tourists drink, or is it a real thing? It looks amazing.
Agua de Valencia was invented by a Galician in Madrid.
Really?
To be very precise. It was done in the Café Valencia. That's why it's called Agua de Valencia.
Oh, I see. Oh, well, it looks fabulous. Anyway, I might give it a go. So it's orange juice, vodka, sugar, gin, and fruit.
orange juice and cava. And, you know, obviously, how would I do a Agua de Valencia? There's many producers of fabulous Valencian oranges that actually now manage to sell them to individuals in the UK. They pick them in the tree and you get them in your house 3-4 days later. They seem a bit more expensive than the orange that you buy in the supermarket until you make an orange juice with it, and you can see that you do it with just one orange.
Okay.
And obviously the flavor is something completely different.
I had no idea that you could get that from the UK. That sounds like something to really look out for, doesn't it? Wonderful. Am I right? Is horchata a Valencian drink?
Delicious, and also has to be tried. Tiger milk.
Tiger milk, okay.
Tiger nut milk. Delicious to be tried, definitely.
And very healthy as well. So healthy, super healthy.
Exactly. I think when you talk about Valencia gastronomy, there is certain things that it can't be missed. You know, it can't be missed. Like, of course, paella itself, horchata, fartons. It comes to my mind arroz a banda in the coast of Denia, arroz al forn, arroz en costra. I think Valencia gastronomy is rich. It's really rich.
Really exciting. It's definitely the you want to have the horchata on like a really hot day and have it really nice and cold. And despite the fact that it's incredibly healthy, what you want to do is dip, as Richard was saying, fartons in it, which is sort of like a pastry that would be almost a little bit like a croissant, but in a sort of stick. And you dip that in, and you make it completely unhealthy, but it's still.
Excellent idea. So for those of us, I mean, Sarah, you're in Valencia. Eva, some of us are dreaming of Valencia from Essex, etc. If we can make it to Valencia, where can we experience the perfect paella in Valencia? Does anyone have any favourites?
Gosh, well, Eva, do you want to start? You probably know even more than I do.
I would recommend to visit the natural Albufera Park and try the paella in the same place where it was created. I mean, that's a great experience, and you've got lots of places there making good paellas. Some of them with wood and other not, but they are very good quality. Anyway, there are other places, of course, by the beach or at the city center, but there's a lot to choose. If you come to Valencia, you have lots of places to choose.
Yeah. There's a village just by Albufera that is called El Palmar, which everyone calls sort of, you know, that the home of paella. And honestly, it's a village that's made entirely of restaurants, and it's right within the rice field. So you're out looking over rice whilst eating your rice, and if you'll see the entire Valencia decamps there on a Sunday. You sort of need to book a few days in advance. Don't try and turn up on the day, as I have definitely done before when in that sort of tourist mode. Everyone plans it. It's obviously this big thing, so everyone goes out there. But like Eva says, there are some amazing places right on the coast. There are some beautiful ones in the city. Quique da Costa of Arroz QD. He has, I mean, various restaurants, but one of his favorites, one of my favorites of his is Mercat Bar. It's Mercat Bar, and it's just sort of more this casual tapasy place, but he does a beautiful paellas with some really lovely flavors, served a bit differently. So not on this huge dish, but on a sort of more delicate, pretty little dish. There are so many options. It's really lovely.
My stomach just literally rumbled. I don't know if
I would actually, instead of mentioning restaurants, I would like to mention the guide Wiki Paella, because I think that in Wiki Paella you've got a very good selection, and they've done a very good selection of restaurants that they are sure follow certain rules of making paella.
Okay, so you can look there and find an authentic paella.
Yeah, and then you have within the selection you have the cullera. Sorry, Eva, you need to help me. Cullera de.
The cullera? Sorry?
So the restaurants.
Sorry.
Yeah. So in Wiki Paella, there's restaurants that have the cullera de fusta, the ones that use the traditional method of making paella with wood. So it's an excellent guide that will guide you into the restaurants that are actually following certain standards of paella to assure yourself that you don't end up in one of those restaurants that in Spain will feed you anything but paella.
Okay. So we've planned our paella trip when we're in Valencia, but what else are we going to do? We can't just eat paella all weekend. I'm sure we can try. But what would your perfect weekend in Valencia look like? Richard, what if you had a weekend to yourself in Valencia, what would you do?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm a sea guy, so I'm normally and as I've been so many years in Denia area, which is a Valencia community also, my perfect weekend will be go to the beach, go to the Pegoli, which is a restaurant in Denia, have a nice arroz a banda, which is a super thin, I think is one grain next to the other one, like super thin layer of rice with nothing but sepia and rice. Delicious, but cuttlefish, sorry. Spend a day over there and then having a bit of party, to be honest.
Richard, I love that your day would be like, I'd eat some rice, I'd have a party. Sounds great.
You're done.
Marcus, what about you? If you had a day to yourself in Valencia, what would your ideal day look like?
Just one day.
Sure, maybe two. We get it.
I've known Valencia for obviously a long time, but I've known him better now since I've been working with Geeks, and every time I go to Valencia, I fall more in love with it. I mean, the architecture in Valencia is incredible. It goes through centuries, but also the modern architecture as a contrast is to die for. There's a lot of museums. The one visit that I would definitely do in Valencia is to see the market, because you will be blown away by the markets in Valencia. It's probably the best market in the whole country. I would definitely, gastronomically, there's so much to offer. I'll go towards Quique because he's obviously my business partner, but most importantly, he is the top chef in Valencia today. And all the other restaurants, Lisa Negra is a very product-based restaurant, and they do their paellas in actual paellas. But I will also try El Poblet or Quique da Costa in Denia, because that's an experience that is unique in Spain in itself, not just in Valencia. But then you've got also Camarena doing incredible food in Valencia. You've got so many good chefs that I would just jump in and try as much as I can whilst I'm there. And I would definitely visit La Albufera. I think it's very important to understand the city of Valencia, and I have not found a city that has such a jewel, such a kind of vegetable jewel or environmental jewel stuck so close to the city. So it does show and reflect the character of the Valencians and how they have protected something so key to them. I think those are the things I would do. And obviously visit the beach and a bit of fiesta.
I can see what's happening here. Sarah, when everyone comes to visit you, where do you take them in Valencia?
Well, luckily Valencia is a really outdoorsy city, so you can quite happily burn off all of the paella you've been eating just by walking and cycling. It's for people who don't know Valencia, it has an old riverbed. A river was diverted after a flood in the 1950s, and there's what was the old riverbed that runs through the city is now a huge park. It's about 9 kilometers long, and I always call it the walking motorway of Valencia, because everyone just uses it to get around the city. I think I've been on the metro 3 times since I've lived here, which is nearly 2 years, because I just walk everywhere or I jump on a bike. And the city's amazing with its cycle lanes. So I tend to jump on a bike, take people out, and you can go from sort of the old town, you can weave through the town, you can go dip into the park whenever you want. There are amazing, as Marco was saying, these modern buildings as well. So as well as the history, the Santiago Calatrava, who was actually a Valencian architect, has had these huge futuristic buildings they call the City of Arts and Sciences. And it's just amazing. They are spectacular, huge white things. You'd have to see an image to see them. They're really otherworldly. And then I dip down onto the beach as well, perhaps some fiesta as well.
I think we do have an image. We've got lots of images kind of circling, and I think there is an image of it somewhere if you look out for it, everyone who's watching.
Giant white thing.
Yeah, giant white thing, that's it. Eva, have you got any secret insider tips for any visitors to Valencia? What should they see?
I would tell them to, apart from visiting the must-see attractions, of course, I would tell them to go to those less known, but not less interesting. For example, visit the small churches, like, for example, San Nicolas, and enjoy the frescoes, amazing frescoes. Or also discover the Horchata de Valencia, which Sarah explained before, which is the unique space around Valencia, and you can't see it any other place in Europe. And of course, enjoy any alfresco plan, either in the Columbus market, or either on the beach, either on the Marina de Valencia. I mean, we have plenty of places to enjoy the alfresco plants, and we've got nice Mediterranean sun to enjoy. So that's a lot of possibilities to enjoy in Valencia.
A lot to do. And I mean, of course, Valencia isn't just the city of Valencia is there, but it's a whole region as well. So what about those who want to get out of the city? Eva, what would you say are the things that you mustn't miss if you want to explore the region of Valencia?
I wouldn't miss the beaches, either urban beaches or more natural. We've got different types of beaches. I would recommend also hikes through the natural parks in the region of Valencia. We have 22 natural parks. And if you prefer the cultural plans, I wouldn't miss the UNESCO treasures. We have from events, traditions, or also monuments. So there's a lot to discover. And the main thing is that you can mix all those plans. And again, enjoy the Mediterranean lifestyle.
I really want to enjoy the Mediterranean lifestyle right now. Why am I not there? This is so wonderful. I'm going to ask a few more questions. Don't forget to put any more questions you have on the Q&A, because I'm going to be opening it up in a few minutes to questions from our audience. What else did I have to ask? Oh, Eva, I wanted to ask you about World Paella Day, because on the 20th of September, as I'm sure you all know, it is World Paella Day, and you'll all be celebrating by making Richard's paella recipe, I'm sure. How did that, why was it created, Eva?
Well, you know, the paella is an icon for the Valencian gastronomy, and it's one of the most famous dishes in the world. And we thought it was a nice idea to dedicate one day in the year to celebrate that a very modest recipe that was original from the fields of Valencia become universal. So we wanted people all around the world to join the challenge of either cooking or tasting a paella on September the 20th, share it with the friends or family, and then share it with the rest of the world. And that's the way we started 3 years ago. And that's why every 20th of September, millions of paellas are cooked around the world. And some of them in public events, other in private events. But the important thing for us is that Valencia gave a present to the world, that we are very proud of it, and we want to celebrate it every year.
Very good. Let's celebrate it. I'm very happy to do that. I'm sure everyone here is as well. It's really good. There's a very a quite funny thing going on with World Paella Day called the World Paella Day Cup. I don't know if anyone has seen any of this before, but they've pitched 8 different chefs from around the world against each other. They're going head to head, and the chefs will be judged on their paella making skills. I see they've got American chefs, etc. I think if you go to hashtag World Paella Day Cup 2020, you can see what's going on there. Sounds quite controversial to me. I don't know, what are the American chefs putting in their paella, for instance? So I think we've all learned you've got to be careful. But I'll be following that to see what's happening. That sounds quite fun. Sarah, I wanted to ask you, why did you settle in Valencia? What drew you to it?
You know what, one thing that all Valencians will tell you, which I have now considered myself Valencian, so I'm about to say the exact same thing. Valencia is Spain's 3rd largest city, but it feels like a small town still. So the thing that I really love about it is that you have everything you would want in a city. You have amazing sites, you have culture, you have fantastic restaurants, but it never really lost that small town feel. You really are never far from tradition. The whole idea of sort of these neighborhood groups that is very linked to Fias, which I mentioned earlier, with the sort of beautiful art that gets built in the streets and burnt down. That it's, you know, there's a real culture of sort of your neighborhood. You say hello to your neighbors, you talk to people in the streets. Every time I go for a coffee, I chatter to the people serving me coffee. It's a really nice small town feel, but it is a really vibrant city. Also, the thing I really like is you've got the beaches, but it doesn't feel too much of a beachy city. If you're in the center of town, just feels like a beautiful historic city. But then, you know, a little 10-minute jaunt, 15-minute jaunt down the road, and you're on these beautiful wide golden beaches. So you can't really argue with that. Oh, and the sunshine as well.
As I asked you the question, I thought, I think it's obvious why you said it. Why would you go to this beautiful city? I don't know why you've chosen it.
It starts to sound smug, so I better stop.
Do you think, if you're visiting Valencia, is it an easy city to discover yourself, or is it worth hiring a guide? Should you go on a tour? You know, is it easy to kind of plunge into Valencia and get an idea of it? Eva, what do you think?
Oh, Eva, you go ahead. No,
Sorry,
Eva knows better than I do.
Sorry, can you repeat the question? So,
do you think is it worth getting a guide or going on a tour in Valencia, or is it just the kind of place you can drop in and get an idea of what it's like to be there?
I would recommend, if it's the first time, to get a guide the first time in order to introduce and not to miss the best places in the Valencia. And after the first day, then you can, it's a very easy city, as Sarah told. And you can, I'm sure you can try and live like a local, which is a very nice experience and very easy to try in Valencia.
And how, I don't want to finish on a downer here. We're going to talk about lots of lovely things, but obviously we're in quite difficult times at the moment. How is that? How have times changed in Valencia? Is it still easy to have fun? Are you still having fun?
I am for the moment. I'm still having lots of fun. Yes, it's obviously the Spanish lockdown was quite strict, but it was lifted. It now feels like a lifetime ago. And one thing you can always trust Valencians and Spaniards in general for doing is being able to put a good party together or to make people feel good and celebrate. So definitely it feels really safe here. I actually was back in the UK in July, so I can compare the two side by side, and Spain has taken very careful measures. It's being really careful when you go to restaurants. The beautiful thing is a lot of the time you can sit outside. Even in December, you can be sat outside on a terrace in the sunshine having lunch. The sort of social distancing between tables and all of the usual things that we have now come to expect are very much set in stone. But I think the nice thing about Valencia is you can be really outdoorsy, and you don't need to be feeling like, oh gosh, I feel unsafe with this or anything like that. There's plenty to see from outside. There is a lovely ambience. All the terrace restaurants are buzzing at the moment. I was out at one last night, and it was packed. So that was a Wednesday evening. So yes, it's still pretty vibrant.
I'm very glad to hear it. I think we're all desperate to get back and travel. So as soon as that's possible, I think Valencia is very high on my list. I mean, it always was, but now I want to be there. So I've got some questions from the audience. I've got more questions as well. Somehow it's already nearly 10 to 7, but let me ask a couple of, let's go for a real technical cooking one. Richard, I'm going to ask you this because when I watched your video, I wanted to ask you. So it says, how do we get the socarrat? So that's like the rice where it touches the pan, is that right? Or it kind of connects with? Yeah. How do you cook that but not burn it?
Wait, making a perfect paella is not something you do from one day to the other one. That's easy to understand. And from many, many years, Kike da Costa team, and we masterize the fact of make paella, and we also understand the curve of the paella, as I normally call. So basically, to start the paella, we start with a very high heat, rice in a high heat, then it goes to medium heat, then it's go to almost the minimum, almost non-exist heat, and it's when the paella is completely dry and the grain is completely cooked. It's actually cooked. Then to get that socarrat, basically, the socarrat itself is the mixture between the fat, the starch, the flavor from the stock. All the protein goes on the bottom of the pan. So to make that crispy layer and to manage to get it perfect is when we heat again to go also super high heat again. I managed to get between 1 minute to a full high heat. Also moving the paella. It's quite difficult for me to explain because we have to be on the fire basically. And as I say, it's not something you do from one day to the other. But understanding and making the paella and try to go by the curve of the paella you will manage to get a quite standard one.
So what you're saying is we just have to make a lot of paella.
Is what I'm saying. Yeah. Is what I'm saying.
Can you do? Yeah. Or go to.
Or you have to come to it.
Yeah, come to your restaurant. Yeah. Are there any tricks or shortcuts when you're making a vegetarian paella? So the question asked here is, can you add meat without having to make two versions? She said one of her 4 daughters is a vegetarian. This seems like quite a tricky balance to me. Could you take some out? What would you do in that circumstance?
What's the question? Sorry, say again.
Well, so sorry. Are there any tricks or shortcuts to make a vegetarian paella in which you can add meat without having to make 2 versions? So if everyone's having paella but one person is a vegetarian, serve them first. I think you'd all have to have vegetarian paella, right?
Well, yeah, you can try a vegetarian paella, or you can try a Valencian paella, which has vegetables and meat. Then the vegetarian person won't try the meat. I think that's the best solution.
But the stock has meat, so it's
yeah.
The answer is no, you can't. You have to make a vegetarian paella and then make a steak and put it on top afterwards.
What would you use if you were making a vegetarian stock? What would you use if it was a fully vegetarian paella?
Well, I will say, Joe, as Marcos pointed out at the beginning of the conversation, the stock is super important. So just imagine sometimes to get a flavor from some green peas is too difficult. So what we do in the restaurant, we add a large amount of vegetables to get to the flavor we want. Of course, again, it's coming on the game, the flavor of the flavor and aroma of the wood, the flavor and aroma. We might grill the asparagus before we put in the paella, for instance, to get a bit of extra touches. But the truth is, the stock is super important, and it's how we manage to make that rich stock by making a large amount of vegetables and getting that reduction, and then cooking the paella is what we get the rich flavor.
Separately, you know? I would make the stock separately without it.
Yeah. Definitely.
Lots and lots of vegetables then.
Lots and lots of vegetables. Yeah, to get a flavour.
I've got a question here from Rick. I mean, I think Marcos and Richard are going to have to answer RSQD here, but it says, which is a good restaurant in London to have Valencian paella?
Well, Marcos, yeah.
It's a difficult answer for us to give as a restaurant. I'll say Iberica. I mean, the truth is that the only 2 restaurants, I think so in Wikipedia, again, what I would say is go to Wikipedia, because really they've made the job of going to all the restaurants and making sure those restaurants that are doing paella, following the standards of what paella should be, gets recorded in the guide. So what I would do is go to that guide.
Can I ask both of you what the what makes high-end Spanish cooking as opposed to just something that you'd get in a small Valencian restaurant? What's that difference? You know, what makes it really, really special?
It's ingredients, and then most importantly, I think that you have to recognise that in Spain there's been a genius in the past 30 years. So there's been a lot of techniques used in high-end cooking that have come out from the chefs in Spain, and that's created a sort of self-fulfilling group that have been teaching each other. So I think that in Spain today, one of the things that I would do as a tourist anywhere in Spain is run away from the tourist areas, explore, and take a plunge into restaurants that do Spanish food, because also Spanish food is evolving constantly, and you'll find incredibly dishes that will surprise you, dishes that will bring you back to childhood, but also techniques that you wouldn't have thought for. So I would say, really make the effort of not going to the fish and chips or pizza joints in the beach, but go into the town and find the right place to eat.
Very good advice. I think that's the perfect advice for any city, isn't it? But yeah, it sounds like it would be particularly worth it in Valencia. I have a question here from Ellie. which says, when is the best time of year to visit Valencia, and how long would you recommend staying in the city for a first visit? Eva, perhaps you would like to answer that question.
I would recommend to come either in spring or autumn. They are they're warm season, but they are not very heat. So it's possible to do many outdoor activities. And for this stay, I would say 3-4 days. You can get a first impression and try the main things to choose what's your favorite plan.
Amazing. So anytime. Come at any time, stay as long as you like. I think, what about if someone's quite an adventure traveller? Sarah, you were saying that it's a very outdoorsy city. Would you say it's a good city for those who like kind of adventure travel? Would you go out of the city for that?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we've been concentrating very much on the coast and the fact that you've obviously got this gorgeous lake that's right by us. But the other side of Valencia, you have mountains. So you've got mountains to the west, coast to the east, a giant lake to the south, and obviously the huge endless stretch of coastline, which isn't just beaches, it's also what they call calas, which are sort of these beautiful little coves. So you can do amazing hiking, whether you want it to be nice and flat or whether you want to sort of go up and down mountains, beautiful biking. You can go out on boats. There's a lot to do. It's really nice, and it's definitely from Valencia. It's a short hop to all of these things. You'd be in the mountains one day and on the beach the next.
And what about Eva? The region of Valencia has got an extraordinary history. If you're interested in the history of the region, is there anywhere you'd recommend? I know there's a lot of incredible castles.
Yeah, there are incredible castles, there are incredible churches, there are incredible monasteries, and there are incredible traditions. So I would really recommend to visit the site, the regional site, the Valencia tourism site, and then try to choose what's the best plan for you, because it depends on your interest. You might choose from one place to other, but of course there's a lot to choose.
I can't really believe it, but we have actually run out of time now. So, although I really what I really want is some paella, but I'd quite like to talk to you. I really want to say a huge thank you. You've been such a lovely panel, and I've enjoyed talking to you so much. I hope that everyone here has enjoyed listening to you. Thank you so much, Sarah, Richard, Eva, and Marcus, for spending an hour with us this evening and giving us your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so
I
much.
have a couple of things to say. Thank you so much to our sponsors, which are the Spanish Tourist Office. They have helped us put on this incredible event, and we are delighted to have been involved with it. I also, for those who aren't subscribed to National Geographic Traveller, we've got a special offer on just now, which has just come up, where you can get 5 issues of print and digital for £16. So go to Nat Geo Traveller, to the website at the bottom there, and you'll be able to subscribe there. So please do, because it's a great magazine. I would say that, but everyone said how great Valencia is, so it's my turn to say how great something is here. I also want to tell you very quickly about the National Geographic Traveller Food Festival, which is taking place again next year in July at the Business Design Centre in London. We'd love to see you there. Head to our website at the bottom there to find out about tickets. It's going to be an incredible event with lots of lovely food. And you should all now have received an email with an exclusive chef demonstration from lovely Richard telling you how to make authentic ayola and also Valencian paella. So give it a go. You will be able to do that this evening. We sent you the ingredients. There's an ingredients and recipe on that email, so join in. And just once again, thank you so much for joining us, and good night. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you so much.